Okay, I got to record this fast because we're about to get to watch the Bills play the Rams. I got a bold prediction for you. Josh Allen scores a lot of points and Cooper Kupp scores a lot of points. Well, we'll see if that came true after the game. But of course, before we dive into this, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment with any question you have. I'm going to answer as many of those comments as I possibly can, and I can guarantee I'm answering the first 200 comments down there on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football, and we're doing Q&A live streams every single night until the season ends. Literally not taking a single night off. So make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to be able to come out to those live streams. And that's it. We're going to go through. We're going to talk about some players that I think you should be trading for before week one kicks off, because I think these players are undervalued across the board. And the first guy I want to bring up is someone that I have drafted legitimately everywhere. Let's go over and let's look at some Jaylen Waddle. Now with Waddle, maybe he starts slow week one. Maybe he's not the perfect example of someone to trade for. He's going up against the New England Patriots. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. But nonetheless, if we go through, if we look at Waddle lines, like right now, if we pull up Underdog, you're looking at this as a wide receiver that was going as a mid-wide receiver 2 in fantasy drafts. I mean, his over-under for fantasy points week one, currently sitting at 10.95. And I think that, honestly, this is disrespectful to the player that Jaylen Waddle is, because if we go back and just track Jaylen Waddle's career up until this point, he was a top five high school prospect going to Alabama at the wide receiver position. Then he gets to Alabama. He dominates across top level competition. He played with Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, all round one wide receivers at the NFL level. And then beyond that, he goes to the NFL draft. Not only does he get selected inside the top 10 picks, but the Miami Dolphins really want Waddle, where they trade pick 13 overall and a future first to go out there and select the elite level prospect, the guy who was an elite level recruit, and pour every resource they have into the receiver. Then he gets to Miami, and of course, all that's behind him. Nothing matters. We got to see the production year one. What happens? He dominates. Jaylen Waddle, year one, is the wide receiver 13. So as a rookie, is a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. If we go through and look at rookies that were able to average 7.5 targets per game their rookie season and 63.5 receiving yards per game, going back to the year 2000, here's the list. Ja'Marr Chase, he's pretty good. Justin Jefferson, he's all right. Julio Jones, I mean, his career was nothing special. AJ Green, that's another impressive receiver. Mike Evans. Oh, yeah, we would like Mike Evans on our team. Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jaylen freaking Waddle. So I understand, yes, it's a horrible situation that he's going to be playing in. If we go through, if we map this out, this is going to be a player that has to line up alongside Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill may be the wide receiver 1 here in Miami. I think there's a chance it's actually Jaylen Waddle. And I'm not of the opinion that Tua Tagovailoa is an elite level quarterback. I'm worried. I don't know how he supports multiple wide receiver 1s, but any other year, we see a rookie coming off the season he just had. That player is immediately valued as a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy. That player is immediately viewed as an elite level asset, where because the situation's so bad, you're getting Jaylen Waddle at a severe discount, especially when he was overshadowed by Ja'Marr Chase their rookie seasons. But just because Ja'Marr Chase was one of the best rookies of all time, that doesn't mean we should be discounting what Jaylen Waddle did. I love going through taking Waddle. We had him ranked as the wide receiver 14 going into the year, but we just were getting him everywhere as he was drafted as a mid to low end wide receiver 2 in a ton of drafts. Now, going over to our next receiver, also someone that I've drafted everywhere, someone that people are worried about the change at quarterback, Deontay Johnson. Now, with Deontay Johnson, I get it. Yes, we don't even know how long we are going to get Trubisky. We don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to be like. Last I heard, Kenny Pickett's listed as the quarterback 3 in Pittsburgh right now. But I'm looking at Deontay Johnson as someone that's coming off the wide receiver 7 season on a points per game basis, is incredibly young, and dealt with atrocious quarterback play last year. Like if we go through and look at Ben Roethlisberger from an adjusted yards per pass attempt standpoint, he was arguably one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL at age 39. Now, of course, Ben Roethlisberger, had a fantastic career, is a Hall of Fame level quarterback, so people don't want to just face the fact of how bad he was last season. Ben Roethlisberger had 6.2 for his adjusted yards per pass attempt. If we look at veteran quarterbacks that were worse than that last year, just anybody who wasn't a rookie, Andy Dalton, Jacoby Brissett, and Sam Darnold. That is the level of quarterback play that Deontay Johnson had, where he finished as a mid-wide receiver 1 while still on his rookie contract. Now, I understand maybe you make the argument, well, Mason Trubisky's coming in. He's not going to have to dump the ball off as often as Big Ben did. Mason, Kenny Pickett has arm strength to get the ball to George Pickens downfield. And yeah, I think that is a concern. I think that 100% needs to be accounted for. So I'm not ranking Deontay Johnson as the wide receiver 7 where he was a year ago. I do expect him to get scaled back. I actually ranked him right behind Jaylen Waddle. I have him as the wide receiver 15. But y'all know we drafted over 700 best ball teams on Underdog. We're still going to be doing those Underdog drafts during the season. And Deontay Johnson was my second most drafted receiver because over there, he was drafted as the wide receiver 26. People are that worried about the situation in Pittsburgh. If we go through and try to find a line for Deontay Johnson with this player prop week 1, they're not even going to have one up because we don't know who the official starting quarterback is here. But regardless, I'd imagine it would be pretty low. I'm fine hammering in some Deontay Johnson's overs. I'm fine also going out there trading for Deontay. And now let's move to our next player, Kyle Pitts. With Kyle Pitts, he was one of my most drafted players this year. I mean, especially my most drafted round 3 guy, because the majority of the offseason, he's going behind guys like Mike Williams, Michael Pittman. And I know we got so much hate for saying this a long time ago, but I think people are starting to come around on Kyle Pitts where maybe we don't get as much hate for this anymore. Because let me make my argument. I know on Twitter, obviously, you have a limited number of characters. I'm not going to go through and explain myself in depth there, but we tweeted about a month ago after making nonstop videos about him, looking at Kyle Pitts versus other players in that range, guys like Mike Williams, Michael Pittman, who both had ADPs higher than Kyle Pitts at the time. And I said Kyle Pitts could outscore both of those wide receivers and you get him at the tight end position. And immediately we had a ton of people down there going, you're the dumbest person I've ever met. Oh my gosh, this is horrendous. Both those things may be true. But at the same time, if we take a step back and look at Kyle Pitts, his rookie season, 1,026 receiving yards. Mike Williams, 1,100. Michael Pittman, 1,082. And one of these players was a 21-year-old tight end. I'm expecting a massive jump forward. If we go back and look historically with what we've had with Kyle Pitts, if we look at 20-year-old pass catchers, because we know we can't look at just historically speaking tight ends because Kyle Pitts was the best tight end rookie of all time. Who are we supposed to compare him to? If we look at 21-year-old pass catchers since the year 2000 that were able to come out and average 6 targets a game and 63 receiving yards a game, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Evans. Then Kyle Pitts. You get that player at tight end. Go overpay for Kyle Pitts before it's too late. And if we go check out his player prop on Underdog right now, they have him at 59.5 receiving yards. Like if we compare that to some of the other receivers that they have, that's only like, I mean, compared to someone that's going to be going up in Chicago, that's the same as Darnell Mooney. And you're getting him at tight end. And of course, if you want to go check out any of these player props on Underdog, go sign up, use promo code FLOCK. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You can go check out all those player props. I think it's only ineligible in like 4 different states. And also they have a crap ton of drafts that we're going to be doing on the live stream during the season as well. But now let's go through and let's look at our next player here. And this is going to be someone that not at tight end, not at wide receiver, instead going over to quarterback. We're going to go with Lamar Jackson. And I understand here with Lamar Jackson, people are going to say, well, duh. Yeah, obviously we want Lamar if we can get him. And I understand everybody's going to go out there and try to get Lamar Jackson if they could. But I'm telling you, don't be afraid to go and overpay for Lamar Jackson. With the rushing upside that he has, going back to 2019, averaging 80 rushing yards a game, going to 2020, averaging 67 rushing yards a game. This is a quarterback that has a higher fantasy football ceiling than anybody in NFL history. Like if we go back and look at his 2019 season, he averages 30.1 points per game. since the year 2000 that has been the best quarterback season on a per game standpoint with a minimum of 12 games played. I mean, literally better than Peyton Manning 2013, better than Aaron Rodgers 2011, better than Michael Vick back in Philadelphia. You get Rashad Bateman going into year 2. You have maybe a very good 1-2 tight end duo in Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. If J.K. Dobbins isn't 100% healthy, maybe they're not able to run the ball as much as they would like. I'm overpaying for Lamar Jackson, one of my most drafted players in fantasy. I would love, if we have Dak Prescott, go try to trade our wide receiver 3 in Dak Prescott. Go try to trade our wide receiver 3 in Russell Wilson. Go try to trade our wide receiver 2 in Matthew Stafford and go overpay for Lamar. And our next player is going to be someone that you may actually be able to just pick up off the waiver wire. Let's go over and look at Christian Watson. Christian Watson, another one of my most drafted players on Underdog this offseason. He was going as the wide receiver 71. And if you're playing in a casual redraft league right now, you may be able to get Christian Watson off the waiver wire. This is a wide receiver that does have a massive red flag on his profile. He's an extremely old rookie. We know, historically speaking, those rookies that have to stay so long in college, they have a much lower hit rate at the NFL level than someone that would declare after 3 years. But there's a real explanation, a valid reason in why Christian Watson had to stay so long in school. His junior season, due to COVID, he's not at a big-time program like Alabama, like Ohio State, like the University of Texas. He doesn't get to play football in the fall. He had to play football in the spring. His season got pushed back to the spring, so while everybody else was able to go and participate at a pro day, while everybody else was going and getting evaluated by team medical staffs, being able to go and interview with general manager, Christian Watson was playing football. He had to go back for his senior season. When he was there, he absolutely dominated, an elite level athlete. He has the size. He has the draft capital. He has Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback 1 and no locked in wide receiver 1 in that offense. I know everybody thinks Allen Lazard is just guaranteed to be Davante Adams. I'm not buying that. I think it could actually be Christian Watson, and maybe he's a player you could get off the waiver wire. Now let's go over and let's look at someone that is one of my most drafted players, but his price point has gone up a ton over the past few months. Michael Thomas. Now with Michael Thomas right now, if we go over and look at some casual leagues, I mean, people haven't really fixed his ADP as much as they have on Underdog. Like right now, if we're looking at his ADP on Fantasy Pros, this is a player that is back-to-back with Rodgers. This is someone that is 3 spots before Devin Singletary and 4 spots before Hunter Renfrow. And with Michael Thomas, I understand, yes, it's scary. Yes, I understand there are injury concerns. But if there weren't, where would you draft him? Say over the past 2 years, those seasons didn't happen. There were no injury concerns. Michael Thomas was just the wide receiver he always was. Where would he be going in fantasy football drafts? Would he be going before or after Jamar Chase? Because the last time we saw him healthy, he broke the NFL record in receptions and was literally breaking fantasy football every single week in full point PPR formats. Now, I understand it's a different situation. You have Jameis Winston, who last time he played a full season, he supported 2 top 10 receivers in fantasy. But here, I would say with Michael Thomas, there is risk, but the upside is so there where you need to be willing to take the risk, to take him as the wide receiver 32. As the last time we saw him, he was the wide receiver 1 overall. I've said this all offseason, but it's crazy that people are willing to take Christian McCaffrey, number 1 overall, number 2 overall, and at the same time aren't willing to draft Michael Thomas as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. It's risky, but there's only one team that wins your fantasy football league. You're not winning your league by just making safe bets throughout the entire draft. Sometimes you have to chase someone with an elite level ceiling. Now let's go over and look at someone that reminds me actually of the situation that we had with Jameis Winston 2 years ago, producing 2 top 10 wide receivers. The second wide receiver behind Jamar Chase here, T. Higgins. With T. Higgins, I understand it's scary. He's playing behind Chase. Boyd is a very capable wide receiver 3 as well. But if we were to go through and look at Cincinnati, this is a special offense in terms of the rotation of the players that they use. With Cincinnati, this is very unique in that they don't use a wide receiver 4. There will never be one on the field. They're never really even going to throw the ball to the tight end position. The running backs don't draw a lot of targets. There are 3 wide receivers and 3 wide receivers alone on the field in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Those 3 receivers accounted for 332 targets last season, and all other receivers on the offense accounted for 27. And Higgins missed multiple games, so that number would be a lot lower if that wasn't the case. So I'm not as concerned about the target competition because we don't have this offensive pie getting split between 10 different guys. It's not Dallas last year. Yeah, Jamar Chase is going to take a big slice, but then the only other person T. Higgins is actually competing with is Tyler Boyd. He was a low-end wide receiver 1 last season. Going into year 3, I'm expecting the Cincinnati Bengals to put up a whole lot more points, because if we look at how slow paced this offense was in game neutral environments, Cincinnati was a bottom 5 to 10 team in overall pace of play last year. This makes a lot of sense because they were number 1 in the NFL in sacks allowed. If I'm Zach Taylor, of course, Zach Taylor's way smarter than I could ever dream to be. But if I were him, I would go, okay, well, we need to protect Joe Burrow. How do we protect Joe Burrow? Let's run as few plays as humanly possible so he doesn't break his leg in week 9. But now, according to PFF, this is a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. Based on the efficiency of Joe Burrow, number 1 in the NFL in adjusted yards per pass attempt last year, I think they actually look to push the pace of play now that he's protected. And I think that we see this offense get to what we have with the Arizona Cardinals, with the Dallas Cowboys, with the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Buffalo Bills. Every single year, these teams that are looking to push the pace of play, and we know they're going to be a million points put up on the board. Now, that's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to be able to come out and hang out with us in those live streams. And of course, if you want to check out any of these player props, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the description. You can find the link in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK gets you a 100% deposit match. It gets you our rankings. It gets you our draft guide. I know you've already had your draft, but it's going to help regardless, like 300 pages of information. But thank you again. I appreciate you, and I hope I get to see you with the live stream tonight.